like I said, I met Richard Johnson, 1980 something, up in Greenville, 85, maybe 90, early, whatever it was. And Ed Kalish, who some of you know, introduced him to us. And we took a chance, and I haven't regretted it much. Not much. And he became family. And it was very, just been an ongoing relationship. We were laughing about this, is that when he started on the ministry, my wife and I started giving him $5 a month. Yeah. And he told me later, you were the first family to do that. He said, and there's one church that's picked me up. It's Neely's Corner Church in Hampton. And ever since. And the lives that have been touched through the prison ministry, through recovery ministry, which they're really in now. They do family recovery, which means that when Daddy's in prison, they're teaching him how to get back home. And they are offering at the same time, they have the life resources to teach the family, here's what's going to happen when Daddy gets home. Boy, it's a whole family thing. And it just reduces recidivism. And that's a big word. You can look it up, but I don't know what it means. No, I do, really. But I'm so pleased. He tells everybody he's blind so he can get on the airline better. Well, actually, he is blind.
Early boarding.
Yes, they give you early boarding. They treat him nicely. Except that it doesn't stop delays. We picked him up and got home by 2:30, 2:45 yesterday morning. He got up bright and bushy-tailed, and I am pleased to have my friend and brother, Richard Stonefingers Johnson, to come and play for us, and then we'll go right into Miss Susanna, who needs no introduction.
You may have noticed Steve and I, we're both Canaanites.
That's a hurricane, and mine's a slow game.
Hurricane, yeah, that's a good one. That's stolen. Well, let's see if I can get in here.
I'm sure you can.
Yep. I got to meet one of my favorite musicians and guitarists years ago. It was his opening act at a little bar in Newburyport, Massachusetts. His name was Doc Watson. He's a follower of Christ, so we had a love feast right there. What's that? I have no idea. I don't think there's a... Is there a switch on there?
There we go.
Oh, thank you.
All right, just be gentle with the cable.
Is this low enough to get down there?
No, it doesn't move. So.
Well, let's maybe... we'll figure it out.
It's a small room. You got this.
Yep. Oh, look, a wire.
This is Neely's Corner. Technology is not always our
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay.
That ought to work.
I think we got it. Don't touch it.
Thank you. Well, the last several years has been interesting. I think I was here last with my son, Jimmy.
Yep.
That was great because I got to introduce him to Moody's Diner. If we had our way, we'd probably still be there. We live in southern Indiana, across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. And down there, they think catfish is seafood. So, no, it's fish. Seafood comes out of the sea. And you can't get real clams down there. They think those little round ring things that look like little onion rings are clams. I said, no, have you ever had a clam with a belly in it? They say, what's that? Well, it's been an interesting several years. I started losing eyesight several years ago, and and it was a very gradual thing. Eventually, my doctor looked at me and said, well, it's official, you're legally blind. That doesn't mean I'm totally blind. Actually, only about 20% of blind people are completely blind. I've got something called macular degeneration. I've got the kind that doesn't have any treatment. So I have a full range of eyesight, but it's like looking through white gauze, if you can kind of imagine that. So I used to be able to say I can't remember names, but I can remember faces. Now I can't see faces, so I have to remember names. But it's good. You know, one thing I learned about it is, you know, blind people walk by faith, not by sight. And most of us have a good sense of humor. I mean, we need it. I was very angry at God when I started losing my vision. I said, Lord, what are you doing? I've got things to do, places to go, people to see. And so I was angry at him. I got depressed. And I remember sitting in my recliner middle of the day wondering, is this what my life's going to be like from now on? I said, I don't like this at all. Then my wife got online, found out I was eligible for all kinds of services and things for free. We estimate that the state of Indiana invested about $40,000 in my ministry. But there's a place in Indianapolis called Bosma Rehabilitation Center. And so I went up there with my wife to find out if this was a place I wanted to go. You live there for 4 months while they teach you how to be blind. I was still angry at God when we went up there. We sat down with the counselor, and she asked us what we did, and we told her about our ministry. She said, we need you here. I cry a lot today, but it's mostly joy, because I get to do things that I thought I'd never do again. And of course I miss Dawn. But she went on to tell me that people in the blind community have a very high rate of alcoholism, a lot of isolation, staying home because they're scared to go out. Now, one thing I know about addicts, because I used to be one myself back 40, 60 years ago, is a lot of addicts believe that, well, if you've never been addicted, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't tell me anything or do anything to help me. And I discovered a lot of blind people have the same idea. Well, you've never been visually impaired. You don't know what you're talking about. And I realized at that moment that God was qualifying me in a whole new area of ministry to people I'd never even considered helping. That because I share the same, I don't call it an affliction. I think the Apostle Paul had the same thing, because he wrote, look at what large letters I write. But I knew I had to be there. And I knew, and so the Lord opened that door. And even while I was there in the school, learning how to be blind and everything, there were staff members that came to me privately just to share what was going on with them, and my fellow students. So even while I was learning, I was... So hopefully before the end of the year, I am starting something called White Cane Recovery, specifically for blind people who need help with addiction. And need to talk about coping with vision loss. And it's simply amazing. Am I killing this microphone?
It's just like,
I've got a loose wire here.
that's
Life is good, even when it's hard. The Lord has been good. So I've had to reteach myself how to play the guitar. So if I cry, and I probably will, it's because I'm able to do this. Be with you today. I met an old friend I've forgotten. The years had not treated him well. Still searching for answers unanswered. Locked tight in his own private hell. Reminiscing the deep-hearted glory, the flame and the fury of youth, when life seemed to be everlasting, as we set out in search of the truth. There are no wasted lives in the kingdom. No power, no place for grief. Come with me, brother, for healing, for love and for life and for peace. There's got to be more to existence than a job and a roof and a meal. For universe random nature, no meaning or purpose revealed. I seek something more than a lifetime controlled by self-seeking and greed. Is there really a truth lasting? Is there something that death cannot steal? There are no wasted lives in the kingdom, no sorrow, no place for grief. Come with me, sister, for healing, for love and for life. And for peace. For all the good things you imagine already had waiting for you. For love, our Father in heaven, if you want it, just ask. That's the news. Not something to earn by our labor, but a gift freely given to thee. Step forward, brother, receive it. You will know what it means to be free. There are no wasted lives in the kingdom, no sorrow and no place for grief. Come with me, sister, for healing, for love and for life and for peace. For love, for life, for peace. For love, life, peace. I wrote that years ago for a good friend who I lost touch with. He went to seminary and lost his faith. It happens. Well, I played this at Don's funeral because he wanted me to. He said it was his favorite song, so that makes it mine too. The man on the cross has no plans of his own. The man on the cross has no plans of his own. The man on the cross has no plans of his own. He is an obedient son. Well, I just want to do what I see my father do. Well, I just want to do what I see my father do. Well, I just want to do what I see my father do. Wanna be an obedient son. Someday, when I see you face to face, when I see you face to face, gonna throw down climb a crown and fall on my face. Wanna hear you say, well done, my obedient son. The man on the cross has no plans of his own. The man on the cross has no plans of his own. Man on the cross has no plans of his own. He is an obedient son. As I told you before, I'm still learning how to play the sixth string's a lot easier than the dobro. And I haven't even tackled the lap steel yet. But it's coming along. This is a fairly new one. I haven't recorded it yet, and as I was thinking about it this morning, I realized I've played this publicly before, but this is the first time I've played it in a church service. So it's so I saved it for you. I'm an aging road warrior, an old troubadour, an old school purveyor of music and lore. My teeth aren't my own, my hair is gone white. My eyes have grown dim, but I still have my sight. I still follow you. I still follow you. Wherever you go and whatever you do. I'm just an old seeker who hasn't arrived, a starry-eyed dreamer. I'm not satisfied to just dip my toes into your healing pool. When I can jump in like a clown in a pool, I still follow you, I still follow you. Wherever you go and whatever you do. My body is worn, but my heart is still strong. It's the heart of a young man, a child a newborn, and the older I get, the less that I know. But patience is good for the health of my soul. I still follow you, I still follow you. Wherever you go, whatever you do. I think of companions who died long ago, and sometimes I wonder, where did they all go? As they passed from this life, did they call on your name? Did they know that you love them, and that's why you came? I still follow you, I still follow you. You tell them, kid. Wherever you go and whatever you do. There's a deep joy within me I cannot describe, like cascading waters that will not subside, and the music of heaven resounds in my heart, and choirs of angels sing all the parts. I still follow you, I still follow you. Wherever you go and whatever you do. So let me drink deeply of the water of life. From the well of forever that never runs dry. And let me know nothing but Christ crucified, and the love of the Savior who poured out his life. I still follow you, I still follow you, wherever you go and whatever you do. I still follow you, I will follow you. Wherever you go and whatever you do. I think that's all I've got in me for the time with my daughter Susanna.
Well, if you want to clean me up a little bit so I have a little room to
That's a good idea.
breathe. So if you have any stories or comments,
I don't know if I do or not.
I don't know.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. I won't tell them the other story. How many fingers am I holding up? Some guy didn't believe it. I'll just say that I asked him the same question and held up one finger. Mostly I have patience for people like that, but this guy was being a real jerk. I said, okay. But, I've written several books. I've got several more I'm working on as I finished up the handbook for the White Cane Recovery. I've also got, I've started working on a series of short books on the fruit of the Spirit, devotionals, 30 days of love, 30 days of joy, 30 days of peace, and so on. I'm working on my first children's book, Papa Bear's Tales. It's about Monty the subway dog. It was, I had a friend I grew up with who had this really cool dog who rode the subway all by himself. And I caught him one day. And he took the train to Boston down and played there with his friends, chased squirrels and things, and then he came back home, and they had no idea he was doing that until I caught him. So I really love you. I appreciate you. All yours, sweetie.
All right.
Could you hand that to me,
I can
please?
hand that to you. I think that sounds good.
Whoops.
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
All right, give him a round of applause. I'm telling when you invite two divas to your Sunday morning service, it's like we're like Tinkerbell. We need applause to live. He's very much living. Well, hello again, friends. Okay, so I was doing the math. I think I was here when I was about 17, 18 years old the last time I was with you, so I hate to admit it, it's been about 22 years since the last time I've been on this stage. So I apologize for the length of time. I promise I haven't been idle in any way, shape, or form, but it's so good to be back home. It's good to be amongst faces who know me and faces who don't know me, because there's a pretty strong chance there's some type of tale or lore that you guys have about me that I'm very glad that my friends back home don't know about. But I mean, social media is truly a thing, so you can keep me accountable for anything that I do say or do today. Well, before I get into introductions, just because otherwise if I don't do it now I'm going to forget, we do have a quick advertisement. So just in case anything that we enjoy, what we hear today is pretty good. We have some of these flyers. So one of the ways that we still do a lot of what we do, we're very thankful because our organization is sponsored by private donors, but grant makers and special events. So if you find yourself wanting to do something and be one of our monthly donors, you can just grab one of these, scan the QR code. If you don't like what you hear this morning, that's okay. Go ahead and grab your friend's phone, scan the QR code for them, and get them signed up. And so what we got there, that's an old joke. I've stolen that. No, most of my best things are stolen. So I have to admit, I'm not much of a preacher or anything like that. I'm more of a, like I like to tell people, I'm an absorber. But I'm the type of person that also believes that I should let the people know what to expect, because, otherwise you might be in a situation where you're just staring at me like, what the heck is she about to say next? Well, I'm not that type of person. So let me tell you what, we're going to go through a couple of different steps. First step is I'm going to be giving you an update about the organization, a little bit of what we are, what we do, and how we've been doing it. But we're also going to do a couple of exercises. So at some point, I'm going to be asking you to wiggle your fingers for me at some point, which then I'm going to tell you a story about a bear. That's going to make sense a little bit later. Now, after the story about the bear, we're going to go straight into another tale, and it's going to be a little bit emotional struggling for you. So I want to acknowledge for that part, that's emotional bait. Don't go for it yet. And if you go for it, I will call you out on it. All right, so I just got that. And I have to admit, I have a word. I've been working with a word for a while, but we'll be shared for that part later. So it'll be 3 parts, because, I don't like to preach. I like to share loudly. Sometimes the 3 points in PowerPoint, but we're not going to have that today, so I want to just let you guys be prepared and know, because Pastor Steve was kind enough to give me almost the whole morning, but I also know lunch is a thing too, so I want to be kind and gracious to all of you. Well, hello everyone, and just to make sure you're actually awake, and if you guys don't mind, I'd like to do an exercise just to make sure you're really paying attention. See, the problem is I'm not just a preacher, I'm also a camp director, so I'm really sorry about that too, which means you're going to have to be a little bit more responsive and probably a little bit more interactive. So if you can do me a favor, I want everyone to just stand up if you can, stand up if you can. If you can need to sit down, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to forgive you, so all right. I'm going to stand up, and I want you to put your right hand right in front of you, just like this, okay? And then you're going to put your single finger just like this, so you got your left hand as a single finger, right hand like this, and I just want you to tap, just like that. Just tap. Just make a little rhythm. We're all going to get in motion. Oh, wow, you're really good at instructions. You guys are doing great. Have you done this before? No? First time? First time for me, too. Not really. All right, you guys are doing great. And you know what? We're going to do so well. Let's add a second finger to that. You guys are oh, man. Professionals. That's what we got here today. And you know what? You're doing so well. Why don't you go ahead and add that third and that fourth. And if you just want to get that clapping as quickly as you can. All right, you can stop. So that's just proof for the rest of the day. If everything else bombs, I got you on film. Oh, goodness. Where did we all begin? Where did this all start? Well, started with a 95-year-old man in Neely's Corner, didn't it? Isn't that wonderful? I have my first memory, so for those of you who don't know us or where we came from, so I always tell people my father was the original hippie of Boston. And then my mother was the original disco queen of the 80s. And somehow that made me. And Jimmy. He's the introvert of the family, if you believe there actually is one. The interesting thing is, like, when we look about our family culture is that, Dad has these amazing stories. And I cannot tell you how hard it is growing up. And you hear his entire testimony repeated over and over and over again from the front seat. When your childhood tales about him catching cockroaches in his hippie days to watch all the pretty lights float around, and this is just basically your bedtime story. Oh, there's more. I'm going to censor myself for the rest of the day. But, that's the great revenge of the now, because now I got the microphone and I can tell you a thing or two that he hasn't told you yet. I'm not going to do that. That's perfectly fine. I'm a good daughter. So we traveled the country. Well, God led us onto the road because it felt like he had something he had to teach us. And I remember from a very early age, all the way back from 95, 96, we started off in a 30-foot travel trailer. And then we started in a 36-foot travel trailer. And this was before the cool trend where all of us elder millennials was to minimize. We were before all the trends. It was great. And we would spend our life with our dog. We had a couple of hamsters. There was a Furby, Dr. Phil, and Squishy. Those are the hamsters that we got to hang out. Hamsters bounce when you're on the road, traveling in the car, and especially if you have like a truck that doesn't have a lot of push and pull. But there we are. So about 18 years old, I started realizing I felt like what God was asking me personally to do is I've lived my life in faith under my parents, and I've had this incredible experience going to prisons and churches and various places all around the country, places I didn't know were even possible. And I had such a unique experience growing up. It's I needed to know that my faith was mine and not just my parents. So I was the first one to land back in Indiana. I found myself working at a Cracker Barrel at 6 a.m., taking care of all those early Sunday morning breakfasts and Bible studies and things like that. And there's a joke that I heard almost every single morning from a sophisticated gentleman, and he would always come up to me and he would be like, "Miss Xana, why did Jesus drive a Honda?" And I was like, "Dan, I know why, but you can tell me again, because all of his disciples were in one accord." He would slap me really hard on the shoulder and go on his way. I'm like, "Thank you for the $1 tip. You're on your way." There we go. And that was my first job. I learned a lot in that space, and it was a wonderful time for loving and caring. And then I felt like God was leading me to nonprofit work, so I found myself working in some museums. And I was working at a science center and then a history museum, and I got to meet some amazing individuals at that history museum, especially just people that transformed my life, and got to sing with Ladysmith Blackman Bazo, who performed with Paul Simon all those years ago, and I got to sing Diamonds on the Soles of Their Shoes. And I remember sitting with Joseph, and he actually gave me a prophetic word, and I was sitting there like, "Oh, Joseph listens to God. He says, you're going to be a tree. Your roots grow deep, and people are going to come and eat from the fruit that's under your branches." I'm like, "That's really cool." I'm just like, man, I can't wait to be a tree. And then, shortly after that, probably about this time, that's when Mom and Dad and Jimmy actually made the call to settle down. The trailer was getting kind of old, and I think we overall felt like everything that we were learning on the road was just not happening back home. And I think, when we come back to, what were we learning from the things, and if I really have to think about it, a lot of the lessons that we probably learned the strongest came from this little corner of God's kingdom right in here. And, I just think about some of the best things that we're doing now probably came from here. I'll get into that a little bit more. So Mom and Dad started and actually did the whole 501c3, got a whole organization. We're legal with the IRS, so it's like very exciting for that. And it's a lot of paperwork, not going to lie, since I do it now. It's just like it takes up a lot of my time. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. Back in 2005, we started serving individuals that were coming out of the local prisons and jails. Dad became a community chaplain to Henryville, as Pastor Steve mentioned. And yeah, it is very true. Like they closed down the prison, and we have to say we got to blame Dad for it because everyone did such a good job. They had to close it down. It's like everyone went. That's the legend and the lore. We just decide to believe that it's true because you don't take a tall tale away from a sophisticated gentleman. That's the one thing I've learned. Don't correct it if you can. Don't correct my stories if you know better either. That's fun. But I have other people who keep me accountable for that you don't know about. That's social media. So while Mom and Dad were forming the organization and taking care of the unloved in our community space, I found myself getting married. Had 3 kids. Actually, I had 4, and one of them, Jesus actually called to him, and I ended up having an ectopic pregnancy back in, 2012. And I kind of had a curious situation as that grief that took place. Supposedly, I was 24 hours away from bleeding out and didn't even know it because it's just like apparently I have a high pain tolerance, and maybe that's my Scottish stubbornness getting the best of me. But I remember in a very similar way like Dad was sharing with his sight, I remember lying there getting ready for surgery, and I getting frustrated at God. I was like, God, I want this child. This child is loved. Why can't I keep this child? And Jesus says, I'm going to give you more kids than you know what to do with. Well, that's a little powerful and a little bit too much with all the morphine that was coming into my system, so I just held on to that and got through it. The marriage has failed. I'm just safe to say it's like no fault of any particular ones. It was just like, God has a way of doing things and getting the truth out, and that's what just happened. So I get the joy of like loving my children and like watching them grow up. My oldest is almost 15, just to let you know how gross that is. She has a wild imagination. I have no idea where she gets that from. So there's Ziva. We have Jack. Jack is 13 years old, and I just kind of looked at him the other day, and he got about close to my height. He has dreams of being a chef, and Ziva's dreaming about being a magician, which is great because I have a friend who's a chef and a magician. He's like teaching them both to like do stuff. Danny is 13. Well, he's going to be 11. They all have superpowers. They're superpower kids. We flipped the coin 3 times, and lo and behold, we got autism on all 3 of them. So they all got like a special little sauce of their own that just makes them really fun and exciting. And I love watching their brains and minds and heart work, and just it's fun watching how God uses them in their own unique ways, and watching how I get to love them into being, and the family love them into being. It's absolutely what a wonderful gift. But back in 2015, that's when Dad reached out to me, and it was one of those voluntold kind of situations where he said, it's like, I think you are my successor for the organization. I'm like, okay, Dad, can I at least sleep on it for a sec before you tell me what the next phase of my life is? And he was kind enough to give me so. I sat and went up to a monastery for 24 hours just to get a little bit of a breather to see, okay, God, you're going to have to make this really clear if this is where I'm going. I woke up in the morning and did the first reading of the day, and sure enough, the first reading from the brothers was David giving the message to Samuel, like, this is how you're going to build the temple. All the instructions, that was the whole message for the morning. I'm like, okay, that seems pretty clear. And then I went and sat with the fathers, and I was just like, I think I'm called to ministry. And they looked at me and was like, of course you're called to ministry. You're built for nothing else. And just like, I didn't even tell them about my past life or anything. Because at that point, I was working at a tea parlor, being an like a cute little character giving etiquette lessons to little girls who wanted to hold their pinkies out and like serve tea. It was the perfect job for me. I was having so much fun. I had no idea how God was going to beat that. Boy, was I surprised, because sure enough, I came back to Dad and like, okay, Dad, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to say yes. But here's the thing. I'm going to keep the foundation, because you, Mom, created a pretty successful, solid foundation, but I get permission to blow out the walls. I don't think you had any idea what I was about to do, and that's okay, neither did I. Because I had a revelation, because, like, you know, so much of the focus when it comes to substance addiction, incarceration, and, you know, just families from hard places is that there's so much emphasis on what the adult is doing, the one that's in the most crisis, the squeaky wheel, and boy, can they squeak sometimes. You know, it's not the only one in that circle, is it? Because we're all in it. When somebody is struggling, we're all in that together with them. So we all need that help, and we all need that care. Because I always tell people, like, I never saw my father do drugs, drink the alcohol. I never saw him use and abuse people the way he did back in his good old-fashioned hippy-dippy days. I was there for the aftermath. I watched the healing. I grew up in the healing. And there were some pretty low times that we all had, highs and lows, the ministry, everything there. And it's just like, I need to minister to my people. I need to take care of my little ones. So back in 2015, we took over a small church basement in New Albany, Indiana. And there was about 5 kids and myself. And all we did was we just sat and talked about our experiences of what was it like for our parents, and having the experience of growing up with jails in our background and substances around the kitchen counters, and what it was like to wait for Mom and Dad to get woken up from their difficult situation, whatever it was. And that was when I got the revelation about, like, we use a lot of courses about adverse childhood experiences. And that was the first introduction to getting to how adverse childhood experience. Has anyone taken your adverse childhood experience tour? Boy, is that fun. Okay, it's like, I knew this was my friend. You and I were friends right here. Just we're going to bond right now. So a score goes simply like this, and we're going to skip the 4-hour workshop because we just don't have time for it today. But when it comes down to it, it's like when things happen to you from age 0 to 18, your brain is basically molding plastic. And whatever shock or trauma happens in your place during that timeline transforms your brain, transforms your mind, transforms your ability to function and feel things. So this is the part where you get to wave your fingers, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm not going to ask you to put your score up or anything like that, but just like in your mind's eye, just think about, like, you know, is there any time that you felt scared by what somebody said or did, or, you know, if somebody was a little bit too strong with their hand, or maybe like hurt or harmed you in a way that just made it, well, that's scores. As a matter of fact, that's at least 3 of them right there. If you ever find yourself like struggling for food and actually wasn't sure where your next meal was coming from time to time, that's another score right there. If you grew up with somebody like suffering with depression or mental health, well, that's a score right there. If you're ever picked on as a kid by your peers or coworkers, or you were missing Mom and Dad, you lost someone from an early age, there's about 9 to 11 of these scores that we keep track of, and depending where you are in that space right there. When I took my score, I realized I was like 6, 7. Yeah, there you go. There's my people right there. You can tell I work with children. It's all right there. That's like, yeah. But so, like, depending on what day we're in, that's where I landed, and I started to realize that, as parents, when you take an evaluation of yourself and how you were hurt or harmed, that's exactly where your family lands, where the hurt and harm is as well. So your children are facing the struggles even before they're born. Your adversity is their adversity. And then they have their own griefs and hurts and harms that are in place. And that's how grief stacks. And you're wondering, like, well, why are things getting harder and harder and harder? It's like, well, because there are people out there that are refusing to heal. And so the generations go bitter and stronger and fiercer, and they're harder to get connected to. So this is the path that we were starting to work in. So that was the work that I was starting to serve and deal with. And the best way I know how to describe this is like, this is Maine, so I'm going to make the suggestion we're all pretty comfortable living out in the woods. You can go take a walk, and you might see something that's a little shocking to your system. Maybe you see like something that makes a strange sound, like a bear, for example. Told you it was coming, right? So you're out in the woods and you see this bear. Well, what does your body do when you see a bear, right? It goes into fight. You know, you're ready to either fight the bear and defend for your life, or you're going to freeze, right? You're just in that space of like, I don't know what to do. You could flop. You could be choosing to flop. What happens when you live with the bear? The bear comes home at 5 p.m. Your body is in overdrive all the time, and that's what our children are serving and dealing with. That's what things that our adults are striving and dealing with too. There's a young man that I had the pleasure of serving with many years ago, back in 2023. He was about 5 or 6 years old when we met him. At the age 4, his father was constantly overdosing. He was taking the drugs and he was overdosing. And they have, for those who are familiar in the substance community, they have this thing called Narcan. It's a thing that you can stick up somebody's nose and hopefully get 2 or 3 shots of that, and most of the time they come back. Well, this, at the time, 4-year-old knew how to give Narcan to their parent. And there was one day when he was taking care of his parent, he gave the substances and he did not come back. It was about 3 hours until he was found. And that's the type of kids that we're working with. And that's the kind of the difficulty that we're going to. That's the bait. Don't touch it yet. I told you. We're going to get back to that young man in just a hot second. Back in 2016, I met a couple. We've been doing my club for a while, and that's when they introduced me to summer camps. And there's Prison Fellowship Angel Tree. Now, I know this community is well knowledge with Operation Christmas Child. Well, Prison Fellowship, what they do is that they assign people to give gifts for the parents. So if there's a parent serving time on the inside, an individual will buy a gift for the child on behalf of the parent. And then they hand camps the names of the kids, and we get to invite them to camp. And I went to one of these summer camps back in 2016. I was like, there is more happening in this 1 week of camp that is transforming people's lives than I have probably get to experience in 6 months of service to a young person. So went to mom and dad, went to my partner at the time, and I said to myself, like, okay, thank God is calling us into camp ministry. And none of us knew anything about camp. And it's like, that's okay, I'm going to learn. So in 2017, I got to spend the whole summer in the Ozarks. I went to Missouri, which was very hot and very humid, so it felt like misery. Thank you. That was a soft chuckle. And we just learned how to love on kids in a totally different, new environment space than I never met. And came back home. In 2018, we founded our first summer camp experience that we ever did. And that very first summer, we served 32 kids, which is not bad for your first summer. It's just like we did 2 weeks, and boys week we had about 13, and then girls week was a little bit bigger, and it was tiring, it was exhausting. Some of us didn't even know what we were doing half the time. I was probably getting about 3 hours sleep every single night, but I was having the most fun I had ever had in my life because the fruit was popping up all over the place, and it was absolutely glorious. That summer, one of the things that we do at camp is that we actually throw everyone a birthday party. The kids have a birthday party. And that, out of 32 kids, there were 5 kiddos that had never had a birthday party before. And that's just something you just don't really think about as a celebration space, is that we're all used to, this is a loving community, and can't imagine a Campbell or a Newt going without a celebration of some kind, or somebody walking through a door not knowing that they're loved in this space. But that's exactly what we're dealing with when we're back home. Next year, God multiplied us again. So it was like 32, we went to 51. 2020 happened, and I thought for sure we were going to get smaller, and that we were up to 71 that year. Just parents were like, we understand there's a plague on the land, we don't care, we just need our kids loved, because that's exactly what they needed, and we were just willing to do it. We were very grateful that I had some really great connections with our state representatives and people up in the Capitol, and they got to pull a couple of strings to make sure we could do camp, and I may have threatened a few people as well, but that's okay. and just kept on building and growing. And then suddenly in 2022, a very curious thing happened. I got acknowledged for a fairly major community award that got some national attention. I won't go into that. You can Google it later. I look so much better on Google than I do like here today, I can tell you that. But I get a call from Pittsburgh, from St. Vincent College, from the Fred Rogers Institute. And I don't know if you guys know this, because I didn't know it then, but how many of you guys grew up with the neighborhood? Oh, great. Some of your neighbors. That's great. So I get this phone call, and they're like, the kids you're serving are incredibly important to Fred. And, you know, if you don't know, about Fred's writings, like he would write to everyone who wrote to him. And those kids from hard places, he would always write to them first. And they always had a special place in their heart. And like, would you be willing to step into the archives, do some research, and help us build some curriculum that will be accredited to you, that we're working on behalf of the Fred Rogers Institute, and you get to be a neighbor. I'm like, I get to be best friends with Daniel Tiger. Are you serious? It was a very, very easy yes. I don't even know if I needed to pray about that one for a hot second. That was an absolutely easy. And I was astounded the other day because I realized, because now I've been studying the works of Fred. Fred did not have many successors. He did not leave somebody to carry his great legacy, so it's taken about 50 of us to try to study all of his work over the years. And I realized that there's so much of Fred that probably up until a couple of days ago I didn't have to acknowledge. A lot of what I learned, that first fruit, that ripple effect, came from a 95-year-old man here in Maine. Talk about an embodiment. It's just like, I don't even know if anyone ever made that connection, and I don't even know if Papa Don even made that connection, but just that ability to love and making connection. And you know, it's easy to get trapped into like the 6 principles of this and the 5 principles of that and the 12 easy steps to do this and 7 steps to make a positive relationship. And Papa Don made it so easy, didn't he? Just like, what a wonderful, wonderful individual who just loved you into being. As I know he loved me into being in so many ways too. So I was able to carry a lot of the messages of Neely's Corner into Fred Rogers. And I don't know if you would realize this or not. You guys have actually been in so many of our conversations back home. So many of the first fruits of our ministry came from this little corner of the kingdom. And a lot of it even echoed into that. So, but working with Fred professionally, we started creating some concepts about imagination play. Jim, I believe it was you the other day who mentioned to me a remembrance of my mother one Easter, because the challenge with being family, don't know if you know that, but the challenge with being family is that used to be that most traveling ministers only have to have 2 or 3 sermons, and then you just kind of like recycle them depending on what congregation. Well, we were with you guys all the time, so we had to come up with new material. Which meant one day when Mom was looking for a revelation and like what's to do for an Easter morning, she actually did, I believe it was Mary Magdalene, and told the tale of Mary Magdalene, if you guys remember. And I was thinking about that, Jim, you actually awoken a memory of mine. I was just like, we're still doing that now, but it's on a much bigger scale. Because just like Fred has his neighborhood of make-believe, we've created one too. So when the kids come to camp, it's not just a Star Wars theme. No, you're surrounded by Jedi. You're in a Jedi temple, and you're actually about to become trained and become Padawans, and you're going to get your Kyber crystals. And you got to watch out because there's a Sith. One of them might be hiding among us. You don't know who it is or what's going to be. It's not just a pirate theme. No. You are the new crew of... you're going to get a Raven Crest, and Captain Beatrice Grinnin Barrett may become your new captain, and you must. But there's other captains that you may have to follow allegiance to, and Commodore Corva of the Raven Clan may call you onto her ship. But wait, there's a Jim Hawkins, and he has a compass. There's a map with some treasure. We must find out where he is. But swear your allegiance to whoever it may be. Some of you may have a story to tell. You find yourself mystically put into a world between the worlds that we like to call the realm. And a fairy named Saga, the storyteller, comes and finds you. And if you're having a hard time telling your story, that's okay. Because I can tell you what the wonderful thing about Saga is that she's a mystical fairy godmother. And if you accept your story, and you accept your testimony, and you accept your truth, she actually becomes stronger. And you become stronger as well, because there's power in our stories and there's power in our testimony. But if you deny it, and deny your experiences, Saga might actually weaken, and your testimony may not be as strong if you're denying the experiences that have happened to you. And I can tell you there's no more wonderful, more joyous thing when you see a young man who has been fighting his anger for years accept Jedi training and find a way to strengthen his heart and mind because he has actually found a connection to a safe adult. Or to a kid who's watching an angry pirate captain fight over a young man, and they're actually working on phases and stages of forgiveness and walking them through. Like, you can write a letter, you can apologize, you can make things better. They're working their stuff out in such a wonderful, beautiful way in this neighborhood of make-believe. When you have little kids that were terrified of telling their personal stories, actually speak the truth for the first time about themselves and actually who they are, and they identify with a loving Father for the very first time, is one of the greatest gifts I think we've ever received. I'm going to get you back to that young man, because he was one of our very first summer camps back in 2023, and at this point he was like 5 or 6 years old, and they were like, we've taken him everywhere. He's been in therapy, he's been in court, he's been in every 6 way. We have tried everything. He's just not talking to any of us. I'm like, well, we can't believe in magic. We're not going to make any promises, but we're going to try everything we can. And we actually had a professional therapist who was also on site with us as well, so a combination of these things, I think we were starting to make some headway. So through the process of our camp, we have the celebrations, but before they leave, we have this experience where we have it called Leave It Behind. It's very simple. It's usually like a pile of rocks, and we invite people to bring up their own rocks. Whatever's heavy, whatever's carrying you down, whatever's burdening you. This young man started thinking about things, and we had some stuff we talked about pets that were lost. And yet another young person talked about a young friend that they had lost over time and kind of missed. And this young guy, I'm going to call him Caleb for right now, because Caleb comes up and he picks up these 2 rocks. You can tell he's thinking about it for a sec. He's wrestling with something. So he puts his first rock down, and he's just like, I want to honor my father because I miss him. And I know he's proud of me, and I know and I miss him very, very much. And he puts it down, and he's holding this rock, and he's weighing it. He goes Mama Z, because that's what they call me at camp, is Mama Z. I don't know if this is right or wrong, and you can tell me. I want to forgive the man who sold him the drug, because I think the drug killed him and not the man. Is that right? And it's like, baby, it's exactly right. You go ahead and put that down. And he just laid it down, and then he took a moment, and it was just like, a day like that, you just okay, I'm done and I can go home. I'm satisfied for the rest of the season. We had 3 more weeks immediately after that. And there's stories after stories of those types of experiences. One of my favorites that we've been growing up with, his name is Jediah. We call him Jedi for short. He did not want to come to camp. Most of them really don't want to come to camp because it's we're loud and we're weird and we do a lot of things. And he shows up mop head, because I don't know if it's back. It's the same around here. Everyone's walking around like llamas and alpacas. It's kind of the look. It's okay. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. I'm just acknowledging. If you call a spade, you look like a llama. You're going to hi friend, how you doing? So good to see you. But Jedi lost his father to an overdose 4 weeks before summer camp. His grandma calls me and is just camp starts in 2 weeks. The funeral's tomorrow. Do I invite my grandson does it still make sense for him to come? I said, absolutely. No better place for him to be. I know, it's so fun. I'm such a fun person too. But he struggled, like, for the most part, for a little while, and then he got comfortable, and it came time to the birthday, and I hand him his gift because we give everyone a birthday gift when they come, and Jedi's like coming up, he's like, I don't want it. You can't make me. He's like, what's going on, buddy? He's like, if I receive this, this is the first gift I've ever received for my dad, and that's just going to make it more real. And we were able to pull him aside and gave into the hands of some loving fathers and some loving aunties and uncles, and they just ministered to him while the program continued. And I would wish I could say it was a quick fix. But even to this day, Jedi still kind of like struggles with the party because he misses his father greatly. But he will tell you now that it almost felt like camp was the last gift that his dad gave him because he knew he needed a family, a healthy family. I'm proud to say that he's graduated. He's in college. He's studying psychology. He says he's going to take over my job. I actually have about 5 of those who are saying that right now. Well, I'll see it when I believe it and see what happens there. But watching his love and his faith and his faithfulness to just loving on people is just endured. And I think that's the beautiful thing. And when we first started, I couldn't tell you what the fruit was. Now, since we've done this for almost 10 years now, we have generations that are graduating high school, some of them for the first in their family for 5 or 6 generations. We have everyone graduating, going into a trade school or secondary education, and just learning how to do amazing things. I have some of the most amazing people in my life are people that just happen to love into being. It's such a absolutely beautiful, amazing gift. And that's just the flagship. We still have after-school mentoring. We still have chaplains that are going in and out of our services. We still have all of the different services and things that we're actively doing. And it's just continuing to grow and be faithful. And so many, again, of those wonderful things came from a little church in Neely's Corner in just a little spot of Maine. You're doing that. We're doing that. It's not just us. I wish I could take claim for it all, but I can't, because I know I was loved into being, and God has an amazing way of using all of your gifts and talents. And I know it's because of all of you, so thank you. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for being faithful. Thank you for loving me into being and my family into being so we can continue to be faithful to others. And it's even incredible still because a couple of months ago I had a friend of mine reach out to me. He's like, you created all these amazing characters for your camps and your after-school mentoring and all of your community outreaches. Have you ever thought about doing birthday parties and special events? I'm like, just a way to get your name out a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like, I'm already busy, but I can come up with one more hobby. What's one more, right? Last one I did was 2 weeks ago. The Saga the Fairy got to be the story keeper for about 50 young ladies who were battling cancer. And I got to spend about 2.5 hours just walking around, sprinkling fairy dust and delighting over them and making them feel so pretty. And one of the young ladies actually looked at me and she goes like, Miss Saga, can you make my cancer go away? Yeah. And I was like, oh no, dearest, that's not how my magic works, but we can love and we can pray, and I'm going to hold on to your story, and no matter what happens, your story is going to live on, because that's the beautiful thing about stories, is that stories continue and live far longer than even we when we pass on. And it was enough for then, it was enough for now, and we moved on to something else. We got to dance and sing. We took some lovely pictures together. She just kind of stuck right next to my hip for the rest of the day. I got to call my friend a little bit later that afternoon and tell him, I was like, well, you're an awful person because, like, you know, that was my afternoon and it's all your fault because I had to do that. And it's like, you're welcome. It's so wonderful when you have friends who put you into trouble. Where are we going next? It's hard to say. Like, kind of where our heart is right now, it's like we're acknowledging that we're renting facilities and things like that. We've always been nomads in some way, shape, or form, but we know that our heart is to eventually have a home. And I'd love to say that, maybe in the next 5 years, I'd love to tell you that we have a land and location and a permanent space, because we can only do this for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Those 32 kids has gone up to about 260 that we can take care of now, which means we're serving between everything within the organization. We're actively taking care of about 500 individuals on any given year. And we do everything from community outreaches to memorials to services to marrying and burying people, and I've gotten to so many graduations recently, and it's just been an absolutely wonderful gift. But I'm humbled by what we get to do, and it's a joy to be able to do it. And there are days where it is hard, and then you have to go and be like, God, what else can I do? And it's like, well, what else do you want to do? I'm like, I'm made for nothing else. So a little bit of encouragement. I was thinking about Pastor Joe and I had a chance to share a little bit. And I loved how Joe and I were actually on the same wavelength the other day, because we were realizing, here's the funny thing about legacy. Probably many of you today probably had absolutely no idea what we've been doing with our time. And that's on me. I apologize. Whoops. See, I'm not used to microphones like this. There we go. Look at that. Look classy now. But legacy is such a beautiful thing. There are some things we just, we don't take the time to sit and take effect. You probably don't even know it, but there's somebody who needed your smile yesterday that got better because of what you did. So thank you for that. There's somebody you could have been kind to yesterday that needed you, and you didn't even recognize it. And they needed that, so thank you for that. When I was, I don't know, I want to say 9 or 10 years old, and probably our first time coming to Neely's Corner, and Papa Campbell came out larger than life and said, "Welcome home." I don't know if I knew during that first thing. I felt good. I had no idea what home felt like. And it was something that kind of stuck with me from time to time, and then just telling people tales and stories of just well, let me tell you about some of the people who loved me to being. And some of it was, like I say, time and time again, a little old man up in Maine with a stuffed kangaroo taught me more about the gospel than most of the theologians that are losing themselves from the neck down in seminary. And time again, I remember when I was finding a photo when we started my club and we gave Papa Campbell one of those pins. He had no idea why he deserved it or what he thought about it. And I was just like, if you are not deserving, who is? What luck do any of us have to be considered fortunate in such a way? And there's a verse that comes to mind over and over again. It's actually a passage. It's in Isaiah 49. And it's kind of long, so I'm not going to like this. And I'm not one of those individuals that go through it line by line, but a soliloquy is a soliloquy, and it's beautiful. Listen, far off flung islands, and pay attention, peoples from the Lord. The Lord called me from the womb. From the body of my mother, he named me. He has made my mouth like a sharp sword, and the shadow of his hand has concealed me. He has also made me a select arrow, and has hidden me in his quiver. He said to me, "You are my servant Israel, in whom I have shown my glory." But I said, "I've toiled in vain. I have spent my strength for nothing and for vanity, yet surely the justice due to me is with the Lord, and the reward is with my God." And now the Lord, who is formed from the womb to be a servant, to bring Jacob back to him, so Israel might be gathered to him. And he says, it is too small of a thing to call you my servant. Neely's Corner, it is too small a thing that you should be called my servants. You are called to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I will also make you a light of the nations, so my salvation may reach the end of the earth. Thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One. You have no idea. No idea. The hundreds of thousands and millions of people that are affected by the love and the care that is in this space. We're just a small sample of it. We're just a part of it. Every box that goes out through Christmas, every individual who's struggling with homelessness and hopelessness, they feel those effects, and they're affecting more people out there. Every veteran who needs a high five, a handshake, a hug, and say thank you for their service, and loved ones who needs that encouragement, you are there, and it's affecting hundreds and thousands. Do not deny your gifts. Do not be so selfish to think you have done nothing, because you've done so much, because we are denying the glory of God when we deny that we are nothing, because God has made us everything, and you are not broken. That was never your identity, and if you are struggling with your identity today, you are not broken. He has never called you that. Never called that to me. Thus says the Lord, it is a favorable time I have answered you, in a day of salvation I have helped you, and I have kept you and given you a covenant to the people, to restore the land, to make them inherit desolate heritages. Saying to those around them, go forth, those of you in darkness, show yourselves. Along the roads they will feed, and on pastures there will be bare heights. They will not hunger or thirst, nor will the scorching of heat or sun strike them down, for he has compassion on those who lead them, Neely's Corner, and guide them to springs of living water. I will make all of my mountains a road, and my highways will be raised up. Behold those who come from afar, and lo, those who come from the north and from the west. Shout from joy, O heavens, and rejoice, O earth. Break forth into the joyful shouting, O mountains. For the Lord has comforted his people and has compassion for the afflicted. But I say to Zion and myself, the Lord has forsaken me, and the Lord has forgotten me. Oh, do we feel that sometimes in the depths of our soul, those dark places? But can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion for the son of her womb? Even these may forget, but I do not forget you. Behold, I've inscribed you into the palm of my hands. Your walls are continuously before me. Your builders hurry. Your destroyers and devastators will depart from you. Lift up your eyes and look around, O Neely's Corner, and gather together. They come to you. You'll surely put them on as jewels and bind them on as a bride. For those wasted and desolate places and your destroyed land, surely now it's going to be too cramped. The children whom you were bereaved will say to your ears, this place is too cramped for me. Make room for me so I can live here. Time to expand. Family's always bigger. Then you say to those in your heart, who has begotten these to me, since I have been bereaved of my children? Thus says the Lord God, behold, I will lift my hand to the nations and my standard to the peoples, and I will bring your sons to your bosom, and your daughters will be carried on your shoulders. Kings will be your guardians. Princesses are your nurses. They will bow down to you with their faces in the earth and lick the dust off your feet, and you will know that I am the Lord. Those who hopefully wait for me will not be put to shame. It's always easy because when you're in the field, sometimes it's easy to just focus on just the one harvest that you're working on, that one, because you work in the field, you're trying to your best to get the most out of that piece, right? Get the most out of the land. You have no idea why you're so tired at the end of the season, right? It's because you're working. The harvest is out there, and it's good, and it's hard, and it's rocky ground, and it's sometimes desolate places that are coming back, and it takes a lot to make soil good after a long time of bereavement and care. The work of this house has never been put into vain. The seeds that Don and Aggie sowed here have been not put to vain. It's a beautiful and precious gift. I think my mic went out, so I think that's time for me to bless you all and pray. So Heavenly Father, you are kind and you are good. So we get to be kind and good. Father God, we just hope and pray that as we take time to love and fellowship, that more stories get forth. And God, we understand there's struggle. Life is full of struggle, but you are good, so life gets to be good. Father, as we continue on our days and our roads and our journeys, let us not forget the fruit, the legacy, and the life that is stand here. Papa, you know where we're going, and we know where we're going to be. God, give us faith to expand our borders. God, there are dreams in this room that are beyond imagination. And God, we are trusting that those books that are in these individuals, there are books in this room, Father, that need to get written. There's a podcast in here that needs to get conceived of and taken care of. Father, there's three. There's 3 children ministries that we've been struggling with. Thank you for that. You have placed everything that we need already. And there's so many more treasures yet to be revealed. The work is not done yet. And you thank you for us being so we can know that the work is not done. There's so much more to do because we get to get more to you, more to come home. Thank you for all these things, and I pray in your name. Amen. Wow. How wonderful. How absolutely perfect you all are. Thank you for loving us and taking care of us. Steve, I'm going to hand this back to you. Want me to cut it off for you? I got it.
We usually have an offering box up here.